Where does Luke Fickell rank in the Big Ten football coaching tiers? Who's overrated? Who's underrated in the Big Ten as a coach? And let's break down Leyton Nelson a little bit more with Brian Smith on today's Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers. Thank you for making this your first listen every single day. Really do appreciate it with a bunch of exclamation points, giving us a little bit of your time. It means a ton as we build this community. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers join today and you'll get free bonus bets with a $5 winning bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, we got that guy coming on. We have Brian Smith. I wanted to get here. I had someone reach out and be like, hey, when you get a chance, ask Brian Smith what he thinks about coaching in the Big Ten. Maybe not ranking 1 through 18 because that would be the whole show, but who are some coaches in the Big Ten that you feel like are underrated? Football side, obviously.
I mean, Fickell a little bit because he was at Cincinnati. He's still in a lot of ways unknown because people won't respect the fact that he didn't coach Power 5 football. And I mean, no offense, but like, I get it. I grew up in the Midwest, an hour and 40 minutes from Cincinnati. It's never had much respect. But at the same time, I know he can coach. He coached at Ohio State, played there, and he turned around a god-awful Cincinnati program. When he got there, they were bad, so bad. I'm like, why are you taking this job? But whatever, it obviously worked out. He would be one of them, I think, obviously, although he gets a lot of crap from Ohio State fans because they're completely belligerent and have no idea what's going on in reality. He's one of the top 2 or 3 guys in the league because he's such a good X's and O's guy. And he does work hard at recruiting. By the way, Ohio State fans think there's never a chance they can ever lose a game in case you didn't already know. Just ask them. Just ask them.
Know that as Wisconsin fans, trust me.
I honestly think that the row your boat guy is a little overrated. I don't think he could handle a big time program like Ohio State, to be honest. And I think he does everything else pretty well. The guy in Happy Valley is one of the worst game day coaches in major college. Man, he's bad.
Yep.
They haven't beaten Ohio State since 2017, and they're at least close in talent. They get out coached so bad by Ryan Day, and it's just they're running circles around him. To be honest, I mean, it's a lot of guys in the middle. The guy that I like a lot, and I'm guessing Wisconsin fans hate him, resides in Champaign, Illinois. They don't have a ton of talent.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like they had nothing, and they had Michigan on the ropes last year. Very easily could have won that game. They don't have anywhere near the talent. Michigan sent 18 guys to the NFL draft. 18. Nobody else had more than 13. So, he can really coach. Ferentz is in over his head at this point in his career. He'd rather lose than change. He's way down on my list. I still wouldn't be surprised if he screwed Iowa over and retired this summer because they fired his son last year. Like literally, I think he's that bitter. It is what it is. Your son was terrible. Get over it. Other than that, like the league is really not dominant by any means. We don't know what Jonathan Smith can do yet.
He doesn't coach from Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, he did well at Oregon State for what he had, but like unless something happened today, they still don't even have a verbal commitment. I know he can coach, but in the Big Ten, that's not going well. They're losing players right and left at defensive. I'm starting to get a little worried that he's not going to work out in the Midwest, but he proved he could coach on the West Coast. So those are the guys that come to mind for me. Nebraska's coach is at a school now that's just so outdated. The kids just won't go. They have the same problem that Wisconsin does. They can't get the right kids to recruit to go up there, but they're trying like hell. Rule's a really good coach. I don't think you can maximize there. It's very difficult, but he's a pretty good coach. Outside of that,
I'm going to give you there's a bunch of different places that have done lists, right? On3 did their list of the ranking from 1 to 18. I'm going to give you their top 5. You tell me which of these coaches shouldn't be in the top 5. They have Ryan Day, Lincoln Riley, Dan Lanning, number 3, James Franklin, number 4. And I think you already answered it because they have Kirk Ferentz, number 5 on the list.
Well, he's not a top 5 coach anymore. Used to be. But, I mean, the game has passed him by. He refuses to change. Those guys lose like they have been. They win a lot of games because they were in the Big Ten West. Where would they have been if they were in the Big Ten East or anywhere in the SEC? They got smoked. They had like 34 plays against, it was either Michigan, I think against, like, how is that possible? Like, they are just awful. on offense. So I don't think he's top 5 anymore. I didn't even count the West Coast schools in this equation because they haven't played a game yet. And I know they're in the league, but Lincoln Riley is ungodly overrated. Until he proves that he will practice like he practices for offense on defense, I don't believe in him, and this is what I mean. His offense is predicated on the passing game. I get it. They don't hit enough in practice. How do I know? Because I watch them in games attempt to tackle. They are soft as my pillow. I got a really nice pillow over here. It's great, but that's not how I want my middle linebacker to be. They suck on defense. Now, they did go out and get UCLA's D coordinator, who's really good, but you still have to practice a certain way and sacrifice offensive players getting hit.
Mm-hmm.
Will he do that? I say no. Dan Lanning's not very good on game day, I don't think. He got outcoached by Washington twice last year. DeBoer's way better. Oregon has more talent. I need to see what he can do, but as a program manager, that's a different title. He's as good as anybody in the country because he would step on his own grandmother to get a 5-star defensive tackle. He does not get no morals.
I heard somebody compare him to Kirby Smart in that respect.
They're very much so. He's coached for both the guys in Alabama and Georgia. Like he'll be I'll go ahead and call this now. If I'm correct, and things can obviously change, Brian Kelly will be there another year or two at LSU. He'll retire. Next head coach will be Dan Lanning. He's an SEC guy. Alabama's not going to be open. Georgia's not going to be open. But LSU is a hell of an easy job. So, he's just a recruiting machine, and he doesn't care how he gets the kids. So that's an easy way to go. Outside of that, man, like the league has got a lot of question marks. We don't know what Sherrone Moore is going to do. I mean, I hope he does well. He sounds like he's a nice guy, but I can't stand Michigan. But I mean, I respect what he's done. I have no idea. He hired in a completely new defensive staff. He'll have more eyes on him than anybody in the country this year. That's a hard gig. I don't like his chances. They lost too many players, and there's a lot of things going on there. I think they'll be good, but they won't be. They'll be more like Penn State is my guess. I don't think they're going to win a lot of big games. And it's not fair for him to follow Jim Harbaugh either. He's a jerk. Yeah. The guy can coach. The guy, whether you like him or not, he can really coach. And yes, I know he's a cheater. He can still coach. Outside of that, man, like that league is really weird. It's really weird right now.
How about Ryan Day? Is he overrated, underrated, or rated appropriately in the national media?
I think there's two parts to that. Because Ohio State fans are a cult, and yes, I mean that in a literal sense, they are a cult. You'll write anything you can about him because you'll get 10 times more clicks. It's just the way it is. Negative also sells. So what's the media going to do? They're going to write more about his bad than his good. I don't like the guy. I can't stand his hubris and his mouth. But at the same time, he can coach. And he's also taken that pressure cooker job that a lot of people don't want. That's half the battle there because dealing Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, there's a few that are it's a grind because you have to deal with people that you don't want to talk to. I give him a lot of respect for that. And his X's and O's are tremendous. The problem with him is like his offense is complex. It takes a while for quarterbacks to get going. And Ohio State fans, they don't want to hear that. They got quarterback problems this year too. They're a little overrated. They don't have a guy for all their players. But I think he's a top 10 coach nationally because not many guys can run an offense like him and recruit like him.
Mm-hmm. This is a good segment. You won a lot of fan points starting off by saying the boat rower. Maybe not.
You can do certain things when you're the underdog, but when like you've got the crosshairs on you is when it's different. Mm-hmm. That's why I respect. I know fans hate me for talking about Florida schools and like Kirby. Kirby's way better than anybody. It's not even close. Everybody hates them. Everybody circles them, and they pound them into the sand. It's not even close. They're by far the best program in the country by a mile. So you got to earn it when you got the crosshairs on you. Can the boat rower do that?
No, he can't. I'm right there with you. I think he's got this weird national reputation where UCLA was apparently kind of in on him, and they might have been. And I think he brings a lot of kind of self-built hype, but the results haven't been that great for a while, and I don't think it's sustainable. I think it wears out. It wears down, I think, inside a program.
I don't think many coaches can hang around long, especially guys that are just that hyped. Like Mike Norvell races his players at the beginning of practice, and he's a fun guy. But he's a guy in a walker in comparison to how that guy acts sometimes. And it's just like that shtick only lasts so long. It still comes down to recruiting and development and stuff. And their offense is tangibly bad. It's hard on my eyes too. They had a good quarterback for a while, but now they don't, and they haven't figured anything out. They're boring as hell. I just think they're going to be a stagnant 5-7 to 7-5 program.
Yep. We're going to take a quick break there for friends of the show. We're going to come back with Leyton Nelson, somebody that Brian Smith knows personally. So we get a little bit of a scouting report on the transfer coming in. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for friends of the show over at eBay Motors. I apologize. eBay Motors is the #1 spot for all your car parts needs. Over 120 million parts. Again, I don't even know where you would put that many parts, but they got it spread around the country to get those things to you as quick as possible. It's the right parts, the right fit, the right prices, incredible inventory, easy shopping experience, fast, simple. What more do you want in life? Life is hard. Go make buying car parts easy over at eBay Motors. Anything you need from brake parts to tail lights to floor mats, radio parts, it's all there over in eBay Motors. And you got to take care of your #1 ride or die. That's what eBay Motors was designed to do. Right now, eligible items only, exclusions do apply, but eBay Guaranteed Fit available to U.S. customers will find the right part and the right fit and the right price the first time. That's over at ebaymotors.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn is Locked On's official recruiting sponsor. Listen, it's all about whether you're trying to win that natty in basketball, football, or you're trying to win that natty in the corporate world. You got to find the right parts and the right pieces. And that's what LinkedIn is here to do. They find you the right candidates for your job the first time, faster and more efficiently than anyone else on the market. Screening tools to get people out of the door. There's years I wish the Badgers had some screening tools on some of their quarterback recruiting. We probably could have filtered some search results a little bit better. LinkedIn is there to do that on the corporate side. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege, the official recruiting sponsor of the Locked On Network. All right, let's bring Brian back in here. Let's talk. We finally hit in the portal. The Badgers finally hit in the portal. They brought in an offensive tackle from Vanderbilt, Leyton Nelson, somebody that you know, somebody that you've seen play. I've seen you break down his film before. Let's start with the film and his game. What can you tell us about Leyton Nelson?
I've seen him live several times, actually. He's a kid that's really balanced. He's been coached well, played at Boone High School. It's towards downtown Orlando, and it plays a real schedule. He's gone against guys that go Power 5 as edge rushers and defensive tackles. Physically capable and mentally capable of playing left tackle all the way to right tackle, which makes him a very valuable asset. He picked Vanderbilt for a reason. He can be challenged academically. He's not a normal kid. I also think he's a guy that doesn't care. If you want to play him at right guard, that's okay. You want to play him at left tackle, that's okay. He just wants to compete. Vanderbilt's terrible. I knew that you wouldn't last there, by the way. He's a kid that needs more competition than that. I also think he's a guy that could be your starting center at some point because the way he takes charge and the way he looks at things is a little bit different, his family and everything. So I think the power is there and all that, but his best part's kick step and pass protection. Never have enough pass protectors, as you well know, and especially with Oregon and SC joining the league. I'm sure that a lot of people are interested in that. And by the way, UCLA had the best pass rush in the country last year. Don't forget about literally ranked #1 by PFF. So you're going to need some of those. Great pickup for Badgers.
Yeah, it feels like because the Badgers right now, they're in a spot where they need kind of a swing tackle. Right now, the depth chart is pretty solid across the starting unit, but behind them, if you're bringing somebody in the portal with the intention to play right now, you need somebody who can pick up a couple different spots pretty quickly. And it feels like this is that guy.
Sometimes you need a guy that can fill in a hole, even if he's not really that guy, but he's just your best player. And it's awkward. You got to do the best with it. But again, he's savvy. Peyton is a player that's going to figure it out. And I don't think you're going to lose by trying at different spots, but he'll have one spot that he works at. If somebody else gets hurt, they might say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And they might even cross train. So, or wait, no, I'm sorry, not Peyton. He's a really, really good guy. He'll fit in wherever. And I think he'll fit in with the entire campus, by the way, too. He's easygoing. Anybody can get along with Leyton. He's a nice guy.
Let me ask you this. So, you remember him from the high school days. You watch him in high school. The offer list, and again, this is certainly a player Badger fans. We weren't following his high school recruitment, but when he commits, you go back and you look at his offer list, his recruiting profile, and you see the Florida schools, you see USC's on there. There's a lot of really good programs on that list, and obviously he ended up at Vanderbilt. You said he's kind of wired differently. Do you remember that recruitment at all? And I
was directly in it because he committed to UCF and flipped to Vanderbilt on signing day. I got a message from UCF's coach because I predicted him to go to Vanderbilt. And he said, I don't think he's going there. And I'm like, Coach, he's going there. He never replied when the letter of intent went to Vanderbilt. I'll just leave it at that. So it is what recruiting's a dirty business. Sometimes you're not informed. That's what happened to UCF. It is what it is. So they lost the left tackle. That's a hard one to take. But he's a guy that he was recruited by everybody. He got something like 15 offers in 25 days or something. Like nobody knew who he was. Then his spring kind of got going and his coaches started sending out film. And then everybody came by to see him junior year, at the end of his junior year, going into his senior. They're like, holy crap. And then they all, like Oregon, I'm pretty sure offered him. Like they don't, they don't recruit a lot of Florida kids. He had wherever he wanted to go as an option. He just decided early on it was going to be UCF because it was literally 30 minutes from his house. But for whatever reason, he changed his mind and he decided on Vandy down the stretch. Good for him. But he is wired way differently. The way he looks at the world is different. He's the kind of guy that could be an accountant or an engineer. He'd be fine with it. He's wired different.
No, which kind of leads into your point of picking Vanderbilt and then maybe transferring to a Madison as well. There's an academic.
Get a little balance because Wisconsin's one of the better state schools in the country. They may not win the national title, but it's sure a hell of a lot better than Vanderbilt football. It's not a high hurdle there, but the difference between the two is night and day.
Is this a player, and I feel like you kind of already answered this, but you think could develop into a 2-year starter for the Badgers down the road here?
I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up starting this year if they have any injuries. And as a fifth-year senior kind of guy, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, we're going to take one more quick break, come back, and we're going to pick Brian again nationally, zooming out a little bit. Who does he think is going to leave the ACC for the Big Ten? If and when that happens, who should the Big Ten target? We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show. Also, a quick second to say thank you, but a quick break for our friends of the show over at Monopoly Go. I've talked about Monopoly Go a lot. Listen, I used to play Monopoly with my family. We used to have board game nights. I played it with friends after I got out of high school when I was down in the Navy in Georgia. Monopoly is a great game. It's a classic game, but it's hard sometimes to set up a board, to lose pieces, right? You're always on the move. We're on the go, heading to the commute or heading to this or that or this. Monopoly Go allows you to play the classic game, but do it on your phone. It's a modern twist on the game that America fell in love with. Go get Park Place, go get Boardwalk, build those monopolies, build those hotels, crush your opponents, have fun with it, but now do it on a mobile phone. Do it across a variety of dynamic boards with dynamic Monopoly boards, leaderboards, climb with your friends, or play against your friends. Go have fun with it over at Monopoly Go. It's been downloaded over 150 million times for a reason. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or on Google Play. Let's get Brian back in here. We touched on this on our last show, and I said, we should get into this more because I think it's to me, I'm fascinated by conference realignment, where schools are going, which conferences are targeting who. When the dust kind of finally settles on whatever this is, who does the Big Ten take out of the ACC, if anybody?
Well, there's about 10 moving parts here. Number one, it's the timing. The biggest fish, in my opinion, is not Florida State or Clemson, and here's why. It's North Carolina because of basketball. And if they ever decided to actually invest in football, that is a sleeping giant. That state is massive. Everybody from the Northeast is moving down. It's a great state for football. They got a lot of defensive talent. But the problem is for the SEC, the ACC, SEC's hub is same area, but academically the ACC blows them away. And they align better with the Big Ten. And they probably want, even though they hate each other, Duke to come with them. Duke ain't going to the SEC. Ain't happening. So if it all merges, I think the Carolina schools, those two Carolina schools would be the most likely to go to the Big Ten. Florida State and Clemson, culturally, everything, they fit better to the SEC. The wild card is still, I'm surprised by this to a certain degree. Sankey, the SEC commissioners, talked about we're good. I don't see how you can turn down Clemson and Florida State. It's just my opinion, but whatever. I don't think either one of them. You talk about fish out of water culturally. People from North Florida should not be in Madison for any reason. I'm just going to let your mind wander. They should not. I live in the Deep South. They're great people. They need to stay in the Deep South. They just very close-minded. It's not going to work. So there'll be a lot of fights at the tailgates. I can assure you that. And to be honest with you, even to a certain degree, it'd be a little bit like that with some of the Carolina schools, but it's a lot more academically prestigious, more New York, PA, Ohio kids come down than they do to Florida State, Clemson. I think it'd be a better fit. The other wild card is Miami.
Mm-hmm.
If they want, because the Big Ten wants the footprint, like the TV revenue and the ads. I know this firsthand from working on different sites. The city of Miami, the ad revenue is astronomical better than like some of the other schools. They even do better numbers for their number of fans. And Miami's fan base is garbage. They just do not support the team unless they're winning. They are fair weather as it gets, but it's the marketing. It's such a rich area. I think the Big Ten might make a play there. That's the wild card that I don't know what would happen. Miami won't like the idea of the travel, but the upfront money would be really hard to pass on because the Big Ten revenue is sickening. That's my take. They're the wild card. I think the Carolina schools that way. The two that are further south, Clemson, Florida State, would be SEC. The only other one I'm curious about, maybe the Big Ten would take them, is NC State. It's another big box school that obviously is connected. They're pretty good at football. They've had their time at basketball and stuff. Not sure how much they're desired, though.
Well, that's the thing, too. You can bring on as many schools as you want to some degree, but then you slice the pie up into more pieces. So, if you bring in NC State, they bring a revenue share big enough that you would split that pie further. I'm not sure they do. If you can get North Carolina.
Well, that might be part of the deal. Like in the state of North Carolina, here's the other problem. You get into ugliness with the legislature. There's some kind of committee in that state. If a state school, Duke is private, so is Wake. If a state school wants to leave, that's fine, but they got to get approval from that board. Do I really trust them in general? No, because I don't know what they're doing. And two, do I trust them not to take bribes? Hell no. That's the world we live in. Like the Olympic Committee is the most corrupt group ever. Just lock me in a room with them and I'll take care of the problem. But like, it's the same kind of thing I worry about. And if those schools want to leave, they've got to have clearance. So there's no telling who's trying to influence them. Hey, I'll buy your kid a house. I'll get them into Harvard or whatever. I vote no. You know what I mean? Like it's just, so I worry about that. To my knowledge, there's nothing like that in Florida or South Carolina where FSU and Miami are and Clemson. But yeah, I had a fit when I heard about that. I was reading up on them like, oh my God, more bureaucracy. The last thing we need. It's complex enough as it is, not more, but it is.
What about the other school that's been loosely at times linked with the Big Ten is Virginia, right? It's
academic,
a good area.
Same thing.
High academic, good basketball program, football program, kind of whatever. Where do you see Virginia potentially moving in this whole thing? Do you think it's hard?
There's zero chance they're going to the SEC. They consider themselves Harvard. There's zero chance they're going to the SEC. It's Big Ten.
Big Ten. Timeline? Anything roughly in your head that's like, are we waiting for the ACC media rights deal to finally fall apart, or do the lawsuits from Florida State, and I know Clemson has talked about it. Is that going to force this thing quicker?
There's, again, part of it is the Carolina thing with that committee, as ugly as that is, because there's more strength in numbers. Two, I've heard different numbers, but it's like between 140, 180 million now. The problem is the ACC is going to want to drag that out as long as they can, because the people that are directly they don't make money with those schools leaving. Mm-hmm. They're going to file for every continuation, everything they can to make this drag out. They don't gain anything by letting them leave if it's that money, because the whole league's going to collapse. And if you let one team do that, do you really think that everybody else, like NC State, might be the next to file? Virginia might file. They're in a lose-lose. So I'm guessing the timeline conservatively is at least 2 years, if not 3. I don't know what you do about it. You can get a schedule together in just over a year and set these things up. So maybe in like 2026, we'll have some information. In like 27, they start playing football in the SEC and or the Big Ten. That's my guess. But remember now, this is a lot of lawyers involved here, a lot of networks involved here. There's just so many pieces to slice. The word fast is probably not a good word to use.
Yeah, great stuff as always, man. He is Brian Smith at FBScout_Florida, as always, making us smarter by showing up on the show. Thank you so much, Brian, and we'll talk later.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it.
On Wisconsin, and thanks for listening.